One more thing I'd like to talk with you about before we finish this chapter is improvisation. Now, in a typical discussion of theory, you think more in terms of having everything planned out, charted out ahead of time. Improvisation is really exactly the opposite. In the simplest terms, improvisation means creating music on the spot, creating it spontaneously. And particularly when it comes to worship music, this is really important because the whole concept of letting God play through you, you got to get used to internalizing all this technical stuff. All of the, we're talking about primary triads and how to build triads and how to read a chord chart quickly. The whole point of it is to get that stuff where it's internalized. It's just like you don't even have to think about it. And in a sense, you can let God play through you. You can let God sing through you. And improvisation is where you're doing that in its purest form. Now, typically you would think of improvisation as a guitar solo or a sax solo or a keyboard solo over the course of a song. But another sort of improvisation that can be great in a worship service is the idea of creating an atmosphere even before the service starts, for instance, or maybe after a worship song is finished and just accompanying a time of free worship. That's also a form of improvisation that we're going to talk about. Now, when it comes to soloing, we've talked a lot about the modes and different kinds of scales that you can use for soloing. I want you to think about this for a second. There's really 3 different modes that you can improvise in. And I think of it this way. It's you can improvise with your hands, with your head, or with your heart. Now, to me, when I think of improvising with your hands, basically, if you're a guitar player and you're just practicing riffs for hours and hours and hours, you just get some kind of muscle patterns, muscle coordination things that are there, same way for a keyboard player, same way for any instrument. And a lot of times, if you hear guys soloing, it's kind of like, gee, that's just like that same collection of riffs that I heard in the last 12 songs. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with improvising with your hands, so to speak, or just the muscle patterns that you're used to. You can get some pretty amazing things, once you've got a few licks down. But, that's kind of a certain type of improvisation. That's going to have a certain type of sound. The next, when you think about improvising with your head, that's like back when we were talking about the modes and we were talking about the different scales and the hot notes and the different scales, and you're sort of thinking, I know we're on top of D minor, so I know if I use B naturals, that's going to be kind of a hot note. That's going to lead me into the Dorian mode, so that'll be a little bit of an unexpected note. Or, that's improvising with your head, which I do a lot of times. I'm thinking, okay, it's an A minor section. I know if I turn that A minor into an A minor 7th and a 9th and an 11th, I've got like a G triad on top of that A minor. So I'm going to kind of base my improvisation around G major. So all of the notes that I'm playing and all the patterns that I'm playing are going to be highly colored over A minor. Follow what I'm saying? So that's like improvising with your head. So you've got hands, you've got improvising out of your head. The third category is improvising out of your heart. Now, to me, this is like the purest form of improvisation. I like to think of it this way. When I'm improvising out of my heart, I'm actually sort of singing in advance. Like I already know what the notes are going to sound like before I play them. When you think about God singing through your instrument, God playing through you, this is the mode that you're talking about, where and to me, these are the melodies that turn into much better solos. The hand type solos, those can be fast, those can be impressive. The head type solos, you're going to hear a lot of really highly colored tones that are really interesting. But if you want to just get pure melody that communicates well, I think the best way to get that is to improvise out of your heart. And part of that is just like singing it as you play it. Just imagine what the melody would sound like and then let that come through your instrument. So you've got your hands, your head, and your heart. Those are the 3 different types of improvisation. Now, before we leave this, I want to go back over to the keyboard and talk just a little bit about improvising free worship progressions.